All right, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're gonna do a quick overview on all of the cars and trucks and where they stand right now, because it's been a little while since we had an update on stuff like the El Camino or the Mazda truck. We didn't really even go into that all that much. So I'm gonna do a quick overview on all of them, let you know where we stand. And we'll start out with the vehicle that I'm most happy with right now. I know there's a lot of people that usually watch the channel that aren't really into it, maybe don't really like it, but that's okay because I really do like it. And that is the good old Dodge. So, like I said, normal channel stuff, you know, we're usually dealing with like go fast type of stuff, and this thing is anything but it is a lot of fun. And I don't know whether it's because there's just so many things to fix on it. I know Aaron from NX Gonzo absolutely hates it because from a parts guy's perspective, it gives him anxiety because there's so many things that are discontinued on this. But I don't know, so for some reason it's just a really, really fun vehicle to drive. I love how mechanical the engine is. I love how just like old and I don't know, it just feels nice to drive it. I don't know, weird thing. But needs a ton of work. So there's endless things that we can do on it. And I'm going to start doing more video of the stuff that we're doing, but the headlights were next to impossible to see with. So we put some regular old headlight housings in there so we can use some nice LED bulbs. Night and day difference. Tanya started cleaning the seats already, so like I wanted to leave it half and half so that we could actually see the difference between it right now, but just shampooing that side. The whole seat looked a lot like this. Hopefully you can see how dirty and nasty it is. It's like actually kind of crusty. And the other side is after she went over it just once with the shampooer. So we're going to do that to the whole seats and it'll just be a little bit more comfortable. The dash had like an inch, you know, okay, obviously not an inch. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but had a lot of dirt all over it. I mean, this thing had probably never been cleaned in the last, like, at least 10 years. And so because I wanted to put that RPM gauge in there, you know, kind of gave me the opportunity to clean it up a little bit. So it looks like a, you know, normally clean car. It's not pristine or anything. I'm not looking for detailed and whatnot, but you can actually see the gauges without having to look through a crap ton of dust. The reason why I wanted to go with the RPM gauge first before anything was I felt like the shift points were a little bit too early. And so, you know, most of that stuff I'm pretty sure is just based off of throttle and speed. But I wanted to see what kind of RPM those things were yielding for the shift points. And if they were at, you know, the right places, I guess, for, you know, if you got a lot of throttle or a little throttle. So we did that first, and I've been playing around with it a little bit. But the biggest thing with this, and you'll see the video here shortly, probably after this weekend, it'll be a video for the following week. I did a trip all the way over to Nick's shop, and I drove this thing with the way that it sits right now, stock transmission, stock converter, and ATF fluid in there. But I also wanted to see if we could improve gas mileage by doing a couple of relatively inexpensive things. Now, the first thing was changing the fluid. So we're going to change it to hydraulic fluid, install our new pan, and do the exact same trip again and see if our gas mileage improves with just the fluid change. Then in the future, obviously, we'll do like, you know, converter changes and then eventually a transmission change going over to like a lockup transmission. So yeah, hopefully we just see the gas mileage go up and up and up. And at the same time, we'll play with, you know, power things here and there. But for the most part, that's kind of stuff that we're going to focus on with this. Second one. All right, you know what? Actually, we'll do this one real quick. It's still here. It needs to go away. I've been procrastinating. That's that. That's the donor car for getting Liam back on the road. I don't need anything else from it. And I just need it taken away. This thing, the Mazda. Actually kind of a similar update. We like driving it as a little daily driver. It's great for like small trips in town and everything, but it needed a surprising amount of work for it to be a dependable driver. And we did new brakes on it, needed a master cylinder. There was issues with the rear brakes. We had to do some adjusting on the carburetor, which I think is actually what we ended up doing was just a Band-Aid, unfortunately, because it's still not getting that great of gas mileage. But it is at least dependable, idles normal. A lot of things on the truck are solid and they're working fine, but there were some critical things that were, you know, making it not that great of a kind of just a get around car. But it basically is now. We can hop in it, we can go into town, and it's useful for that. So unless something drastically changes, this thing's probably going to get sold here pretty soon. We'll keep it around because it's somewhat useful right now just for quick trips, but There's another truck, little tiny truck, that we're really, really interested in. Jake Crary's red Datsun. When he first got that thing and he posted up on Facebook, I was like, oh my God, that thing is awesome. Like, it is such a, I mean, it's kind of like this, where there's something about it that I just absolutely love. It's just a cool truck, and I really want it. And it has a pretty cool motor in it. I mean, not like super cool, like, you know, V8 swapped or, you know, SR20 or anything like that, but it has a KA. So it has a, you know, modern, updated motor. It's manual, so Tanya's gonna like it better. She prefers driving stick. I mean, this one is too, but that's what I mean. Like, it'll be a fun little driver. And I mean, this thing probably on a good day makes like 80 horsepower or something like that. Having the KA in there will be much more fun. So I don't know, we'll see. It's not like final or anything. He said he might be thinking about selling it around springtime. If he sells it, I will absolutely buy it, and we'll have a blast, because that'll be a fun trip. We'll do a video of like going up to actually get it, and then you know, towing it down, or maybe driving it down. I don't know the condition of it, so we'll talk to him more and see about that. But that's kind of the update on the Mazda, unfortunately. It might not have it for very much longer. I was kind of excited on what we were going to do with it, but we would have to, you know, kind of make it into a project, do a motor swap or something like that. Like, I'm already putting in a little bit more effort than I want to in the existing crappy stuff. If I'm going to put that kind of effort into it, I want it to be, you know, something fun. You know, if I got to replace a motor, I'm sure as hell not going to put that stock motor back in there. I'm going to put something fun in there. So kind of stuff like that. Well, we'll see. Not really a very good update on the Ford. It wouldn't start on me the other day. Typical Ford stuff. It angered me. Honestly, actually, here's the update for the Ford. I'm going to probably get it back to, you know, good condition, which, I mean, it's just the stupid starter. But anyway, I'll figure that out, fix it up, and I kind of want to get rid of this thing and then get a second gen Dodge. I'm liking that other one so much that I kind of want to get rid of this one and get a second gen, so that we could have two 12 valves if it's not worthy of an update. Doggo update. Oh, are you peeing on your ball? Dude. Unsanitary. He's still incredibly cute, but he's getting a lot bigger. Hi. Oh, hello. We did get his DNA test back, and he is mostly German Shepherd, but he's got a whole bunch of other stuff in him too, so we have no idea what he's going to look like. His ears were up for a while, but then they went down. So I don't know if he's going to look like a Shepherd or more like a Lab. He's got a little bit of Lab in him. We'll see. Still cute. All right, so the update on the El Camino is we've gotten a bunch of parts in, basically. We haven't done anything physical to it in a while. We've just been kind of collecting some parts and waiting on some parts to come in. Most notably, the axles for the rear end. So the rear end, we have everything that we need to 100% button it up. So like the brakes, we're taking off of the old Civic rear end. You know, we have the cover, the diff, you know, new bearings, gearing, and all of that. And now finally the axles came in. So we're probably going to, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. This weekend's going to be a little bit busy with getting Billy's car started up. But the following weekend, what we're going to do is probably have Tanya go over there and have Nick basically run her through how to put together that rear end. Then we'll probably get to doing the brakes on it. Then maybe get the motor and the transmission in there, measure for the drive shaft, and then start doing wiring at that point. So it's going to start really coming along. I know it seems like we're, you know, putting it off, but really what's happening is we're getting a lot of parts in, but we're not getting everything that we need to complete certain things. And I don't want to start on anything until I have everything that's necessary to complete it. That way we don't have a bunch of, you know, just partially finished portions of the car. So what I'm thinking is going to happen is, like, once we get to a point where we have all of the parts in, we're going to have a ton for, you know, the next thing on the list, and then the next thing on the list. It'll just be like one part away from being able to have everything that we need to do the next piece on the list. So I think it'll start going really, really fast. Let's see some of the stuff that we got here. What we got, lady? So we got the brake booster delete here with a new master cylinder. Gonna put that on there, get rid of the old ugly master cylinder, free up a little bit of space in there. You're gonna get cut. I'm not very good with this knife, lady. All right, so what else we got from Carter Motorsports? So these coils, Nick told me about this. He tagged me in a Facebook post when they came in stock, but These are basically the ING1 coils at like half the price that all of the other companies sell them for. So shout out to Carter Motorsports. So there it is. Look familiar, doesn't it? So a lot of guys have been using these already successfully. You know, I'm pretty positive it's the exact same coil. But yeah, hit up Carter Motorsports if you need some coils. They are the most reasonably priced of this type of coil. So pretty cool. Excited about that. We definitely wanted to get a proper coil in this car with, you know, what we ran into with Liam before we got rid of him. Having the stock coils in there that will discharge themselves in order to save themselves, not being able to know what timing you're actually going to be running. We really want to make sure that we have a coil that does what we tell it to do. All right, next thing is we got a fancy Dominator. So Waylon was selling his Dominator, and I mean, we were getting ready to buy an HP for it because that's all we really need. And we honestly don't need the Dominator, but we're going to go ahead and get fancy with it now that we have one. The prices of the HP were pretty ridiculous, so we went ahead and just, for almost the same price as what we were going to be able to get into a new HP for, got a Dominator. So shout out to Waylon, because that's going to be a lot of fun. This thing was something Nick actually showed me. It's a speed sensor, which I did not realize there was a provision for this in the side of most Turbo 400s. I had no idea. I was getting ready to buy the, you know, the fancy yoke and the collar from Motion Raceworks and the sensor for the drive shaft speed. But yeah, we're actually using this for one of the in one of the cars that Nick did recently, and I didn't even realize that was the speed sensor that we're using. He was like, "Hey, how's the speed signal look?" I was like, perfect as usual. Why?" He was like, "Oh yeah, it's a totally different sensor." So pretty cool. All right, so finally we got a couple of things over here sitting on the motor that's getting ready to go into the car. We got the new intake manifold. So we ended up going with the low rise, but the regular plenum. We were going to get that ultra low rise that has the throttle body that actually comes straight out instead. It's like a kind of a 3-piece setup, but it's on back order like a ridiculous amount of time. We were not going to wait for that. So we went ahead and got this one from a guy that Nick knew down in Florida that was selling one. Grabbed it real quick. It's a dual injector, dual rail setup. So we're probably going to make this a dual fuel car. We're not going to do it the way a couple of people have suggested. It is going to just be a line swap sort of thing. So we're going to have 2 fuel tanks, one with methanol, one with, you know, either ethanol or pump gas. And we're going to use some quick disconnects to switch the tanks and whatnot. A couple of reasons. We'll get into that more, why I want to do that, why we're not going to be doing a valve setup, why we're not going to be doing, you know, one rail of one type of fuel, one rail of another type of fuel, and switching between the two with the ECU. There's reasons for everything. There's pros and cons for everything, and so we'll talk about that, you know, when it gets time to actually set that stuff up. Big old throttle body, 105 millimeter. Not entirely sure we needed to go that big, but we're gonna. This is probably the next thing that we'll do a video on. Tanya wants to really do these herself, so we're probably gonna do it. This is just the trunnion upgrade and the new push rods. So we are kind of stepping our game up a little bit on this one, since it has nice heads and it's got a nice cam in it. We're probably going to spin this motor a little bit higher than we have the previous ones, and in order to do that safely, we can't do the normal, you know, stock rockers and stock push rods. So we are going to do the trunnion upgrade, and we are going to have some fancy push rods. So hopefully that'll allow us to spin it a lot higher. I mean, I know guys on that sort of setup spin, you know, above $8,000. We'll see where we land as far as like where that cam's power band is and what the turbo likes that we're going to use on it. But it's nice knowing that we will be able to use that RPM if in fact we have to. So Snake Eater Performance is going to be helping us out with the injectors on these. So we're going to be doing 2 different sizes. The primary set is going to be a 1300cc, and the secondary set is going to be a 210. The reason why we're doing that stagger, and same thing, we'll get into this more later, but just a brief explanation of why we're doing that stagger is one of the primary fuels that we're going to be on may be pump gas. Like Tanya wants to be able to do long trips in this thing. So if one of the legs of the trip that she's on, she's not able to get E85, we want to be able to go on pump gas. And I just like to have a smaller injector for pump gas. It does end up being kind of a, you know, pain in the butt on a really large injector trying to pulse down to like below 1 millisecond or something like that. It's not a crazy number of injectors. There's not a lot of injectors that run great, below 1.0 milliseconds. Since the power goal that we have for this thing is not going to require 2 sets of 210s, then I would really rather have a smaller set of injectors on there as the primary set for those instances when we're on pump gas, so that we don't have to pulse it down below 1.0. Like what I'm assuming at idle on, what this motor does on a 1300cc is going to be like, 1.5, 1.8 milliseconds or something like that on pump gas, which even a crappy injector can do. So it just makes sense to get an injector that is going to be at a pulse width that it's happier, even on pump gas. When it needs to help out, or when it needs to run on methanol, or when it needs to run on E85, that pulse width is going to be higher, and it has no problem with that. You just really end up running into a lot of idle issues when the injector has to pulse down lower than it can. I mean, there's only so fast it can do that cycle. That's why a lot of the information that you get from the injectors will show a minimum duty cycle, or a minimum pulse width. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are full of shit. Like there's some injectors that say their minimum pulse width is 0.7, and they start acting stupid at like 1.2. So like, every injector is a little bit different. I wished you could go by the paperwork every single time, but I've seen in the past it's not always accurate. So every injector that I've come across can at least do well above 1.0. So that's why we're shooting for that. That's why we're doing that stagger. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the update. Do the usual, like, share, subscribe. You guys will see a bunch of content here coming up shortly, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one.